Here are 50 amazing facts to blow your mind. Europa is the sixth closest moon of Jupiter. One day on Europa is 3.551 Earth days. It takes Europa 3.55 Earth days to orbit Jupiter. That means that a day in Europa takes the same amount of time as 1 year on Europa. Actor Sean Connery was offered the part of Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, offering him $10 million and 15% of box office takings for all 3 movies, but he turned it down because he didn't understand the script. Moneypenny, what are these hobbits? The National Geographic Society was founded on January 27, 1888. It was formed by 33 men who were a group of geographers, explorers, teachers, lawyers, cartographers, military officers, and financiers. They created it because they all had an interest in scientific and geographical knowledge and wanted to share it with everyone. According to the Guinness World Records, the oldest continuously used national flag is the Dannebrog, or Danish cloth, the flag for Denmark. It's been in use since the 1370s. Eating a late night snack right before bed can increase your metabolism and cause you to have nightmares. Because your metabolism is increased, it signals the brain to become more active and cause scary dreams. It is impossible to swallow and breathe at the same time. There's a cannon located in Stanley Park in Vancouver that goes off every night at exactly 9 p.m. It's overlooking Cole Harbor in the downtown skyline in the exact same spot where it was installed in 1898 by the Canadian Department of Marine and Fisheries. It was originally installed to warn fishermen of the close of the nightly fishing. The human stomach can hold up to 1.5 liters of liquid at any given time. You can also hold up to 16.91 cups of food when it's fully distended. That's about 50 times the normal volume of the stomach. So basically anytime I go to a buffet. About 1 in 200 people are born with an extra rib called a cervical rib. At the back, it connects to the 7th cervical vertebra in your neck. At the front, in some people, the rib can be floating and have no connection. It can also be connected to your first rib by a band of tough fibrous tissue, or there may be a joint to connect it to your first rib. It can be just on the right side, just on the left side, or even both sides. The tree with the longest leaves in the world is the raffia palm, which is native to some African countries. Each leaf can be up to 24.4 meters long and up to 3 meters wide. You can now get music from the classic Sega games on Spotify. You can find tracks like Outrun, Sonic the Hedgehog, Shinobi, Golden Axe, and Jet Set Radio. There are over a dozen full albums to choose from. In January 2016, underwater photographer Ellen Mueller accidentally stumbled upon a brand new species of hermit crab in the National Marine Park off the southern Caribbean island of Bonaire. Because its legs look like candy canes, it's been called the candy-striped hermit crab. Still, I don't care how candy cane it looks, it's the spider of the sea, it's freaky. According to the Guinness World Records, the loudest burp ever recorded by a male was 109.9 decibels and was achieved by Paul Hun in the United Kingdom on August 23, 2009. Cyprus and Kosovo are the only 2 countries to depict the outline of their nation on their flag. The province of Newfoundland was once a dominion that functioned much like its own country until 1934. It became part of Canada on March 31, 1949, after 52% of voters in a referendum supported joining the country. There's a church in the Czech Republic made entirely of bones. The Sedlec ossuary features a collection of dismembered and bleached human remains. It's estimated to hold the remains of between 40,000 and 70,000 people, a lot of whom died in the plague in 1418 and during the Hussite Wars of the 15th century. It's located under the Cemetery Church of All Saints and has things such as candelabras, candle holders, and chalices made from bones. Poland's Wieliczka salt mine, located more than 305 meters underground, is roomy enough to fit the Eiffel Tower and then some. It's one of the world's oldest salt mines still in operation, although it stopped producing table salt in 2007. Over the years, miners have been carving out sculptures and even 4 chapels all made of salt. As salt mining slowed and then stopped, the chambers have been transformed into an incredible underground amusement park with grand halls, health spas, museum-worthy art, and record-setting spectacles. There's a town in Texas called Ding Dong and is located in Bell County. The Japanese national anthem is really easy to learn because it's only 5 lines long. The Mattel Toy Company was started in 1945 in a garage owned by Harold Matson and Elliot Handler. The name Mattel is a combination of their names. They started out producing picture frames, but when Elliot started making dollhouse furniture from the picture frame scraps, they were so successful that they switched over to making nothing but toys. One of the deadliest airplane crashes of all time happened on the ground. On March 27, 1977, a KLM Royal Dutch Airline Boeing 747 started to take off and crashed into a Pan American World Airways Boeing 747 that was still on the runway. It happened at the Los Rodeos Airport in the Canary Islands. A total of 574 people from both planes died. Imperial Japanese Army officer Hiro Onoda remained at his jungle post on the island of the Philippines for 29 years because he refused to believe that World War II was over. He returned to a hero's welcome in Japan in 1974. Author of the books Jaws and The Deep, Peter Benchley was a speechwriter for President Lyndon B. Johnson. Charlie Chaplin was the first actor to appear on the cover of Time magazine on July 6, 1925. In his 80s and partially bedridden, famous artist Henri Matisse would sketch portraits from his bed by using a 1.2 meter long stick with a pencil or piece of charcoal attached to the end to reach the paper or canvas. According to the Guinness World Records, the largest jackpot payout in an online slot machine game was over $20 million. It was won by John Haywood from Cardiff in the United Kingdom on October 6, 2015, while playing Microgaming's Mega Moolah on Betway's website. On February 6, 1971, astronaut Alan Shepard, using a makeshift 6-iron he had smuggled on board Apollo 14, hit 2 golf balls on the moon's surface, becoming the first and only person to play golf anywhere other than Earth. The 27th President of the United States, William Howard Taft, had a love of bathtubs, very large bathtubs. Taft, who weighed about 154 kilograms, had a huge bathtub built in 1909 that weighed a ton. It was installed on the USS North Carolina for a visit to the Panama Canal. Another tub was installed in the Taft Hotel that was 2.4 meters long, 1.2 meters wide, and 1.2 meters deep. A 454 kilogram horse produces approximately 23 kilograms of manure per day, or about 9,072 kilograms of manure per year. That's a lot of poopy. There's a type of salamander called the axolotl that never changes into an adult. They stay in their larval stage for their whole lives and can even reproduce without reaching the adult stage. The female lion does the majority of the hunting, with the male only joining in occasionally when the prey is especially large, such as a buffalo. Most cats don't like the water, but not the fishing cat that is found in India. The bulk of the fishing cat's diet is made up of fish, which they will not only swim and dive after, but they try and scoop them out with their paws as well. The green vomit that comes out of Regan, played by actress Linda Blair in the 1973 movie The Exorcist, was actually a combination of split pea soup and oatmeal. Stan Laurel of comedy duo Laurel and Hardy was silent film star Charlie Chaplin's understudy. T-shirts are called T-shirts because when laid down, they're shaped like a T. The average human head weighs 4.5 kilograms. Except mine, I have a huge alien skull. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, pneumono-ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis is the longest word in the English language. It's 45 letters long and is a type of lung disease. Also, feel free to hit that like button after me trying to pronounce that 45 times off camera. NASA astronaut Scott Kelly, after living for nearly a year aboard the International Space Station, came home to find out that he is 5 centimeters taller than his identical twin brother Mark. This is because astronauts get a bit taller in space because the discs of the spinal column on Earth get compressed due to gravity. In space, there is no gravity, which causes the discs to expand and the spine to lengthen, making the astronaut taller. There's a weather phenomenon known as Hector the Convector that forms nearly every afternoon on the Tiwi Islands, Northern Territory, Australia, during the transitional months of November to December and February to March each year. It's known as one of the world's most consistently large thunderstorms. The enormous thundercloud reaches heights of approximately 20.1 kilometers. Mexico City has sunk more than 9.8 meters in the last 60 years because 70% of the water people rely on is extracted from the aquifer below the city. There's a substance contained in licorice root called glycyrrhizin that is about 50 times sweeter than sugar. The Ruppel's griffon vulture is known as the highest flying bird ever recorded. They've been recorded to fly at an altitude of 11 kilometers in the air. For perspective on just how high that is, the average commercial plane flies at about 9 to 12 kilometers in the air. Since the vulture is so high up, it has developed a special type of hemoglobin which makes their oxygen intake much more effective at those heights. The kangaroo rat is so adapted to desert living that they can go their whole lives without drinking any water. They get enough moisture from their seed diet to survive. Kauai has turned a ditch that runs down Mount Waleale into a lazy river ride. Over a century ago, there was a hand-built ditch system put in, a series of canals and tunnels to bring water from the waterfalls and streams of Mount Waleale to provide irrigation for the sugarcane fields of the sugar plantations below. Since the plantation is closed down, it's now used as a water ride. The Korowai and Kombai people, indigenous tribes that live in southeastern Indonesia, live in homes that are atop of trees. They are usually built between 6 meters and 25 meters above the ground, but they can go as high as 50 meters. They build them that high to avoid some animal attacks from the jungle, the flood during the rainy season, and to be a post guard during conflict that may occur among tribes. In January of 2017, the Vale Brewing Company, a craft beer maker in Richmond, Virginia, created a new beer that's infused with Oreo cookies. They took their chocolate milk stout and conditioned it with hundreds of pounds of Oreo cookies and named it Hornswoggle Chocolate Milk Stout with Oreos. Former President Harry S. Truman, who served from 1945 to 1953, was the first president to be given a Secret Service code name, General. Beer with more than 2.25% alcohol was banned for most of the 20th century. It was banned until March 1st, 1989, which is now celebrated every year as Beer Day. In February of 2017, researchers at the University of Toronto discovered soft tissue, collagen and iron-rich proteins inside a 195 million year old dinosaur bone. It was found within the rib of a Lufengosaurus dinosaur, a long-necked herbivore that roamed across what is now southwestern China during the early Jurassic period. Poison dart frogs are completely non-toxic when they are bred in captivity. Even wild-caught frogs gradually lose their poisons in captivity. In order to create their toxins, poison dart frogs need certain chemicals that are present in the insects they eat in the wild. Therefore, they are no longer poisonous when in captivity because they do not get the same insects as their food. Bill Gates used to be so addicted to Minesweeper, he used to sneak into a colleague's office after work to play because he uninstalled it on his own computer because he was playing it too much. There's a type of chicken called the Ayam Samani. It's inky black from the tip of its comb to the end of its claws, with blue blackish skin, jet black eyes, and a black tongue. It's covered in shimmering metallic black feathers, and even its internal organs are black. The Bullicornis, nicknamed the Demon Duck of Doom, was a prehistoric bird that grew up to 2.5 meters tall and weighed an estimated 250 kilograms. The strawberry squid is a deep-sea squid that looks like a strawberry and has mismatched eyes. It has one large, light-colored eye that's angled upwards and a smaller, darker eye that's angled downwards. downwards. One eye evolved to look for predators and the other evolved to look for prey. There's a village in southeastern Poland called Zalipy, where all the cottages are painted with floral designs. Over a century ago, women would paint over the dark spots of soot that were caused by their fires with paintings of flowers, and the tradition continues to this day. The French military has trained golden eagles to destroy terrorist drones so that they don't have to shoot them down. The original Latin name for the dandelion plant is Leontodon taraxacum. This is because in Greek, Leontodon means lion's tooth, as the serrated leaves resemble the teeth of a lion. According to research led by Colin Wright at the University of California, paper wasp queens pass their personality onto the colony. Wright's team discovered that they could predict paper wasp behavior 6 weeks before they even hatched just by watching the queen. In 2006, Alex Thornton and Catherine McAuliffe at Cambridge University discovered how adult meerkats teach their youngest pups how not to be stung by scorpions, one of their main sources of prey. They bring the pups dead scorpions, then ones that are alive but injured, and then eventually they work their way up to live prey. Blood-type tattoos were used during the Cold War to enable rapid transfusion in 2 parts of the United States, Indiana and Utah. School children were actually tattooed to facilitate emergency transfusions as part of a walking blood bank in case of an atomic attack. The world's first fluorescent frog was discovered in Argentina in March of 2017. In normal light, the polka dot tree frog appears to have a dull, browny green skin with red dots, but under UV light, it glows a bright fluorescent green. The barber's pole colors of red, white, and blue are a legacy of an era when people went to barbers not just to have a haircut or shave, but also for bloodletting and other medical procedures. Barbers would cut your hair, do some bloodletting, pull teeth, and even set broken bones. Javier Diaz, a professor at the Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering at Rutgers University, has developed a drone that can not only fly, but swim as well. It's called the Naviator. A convicted pedophile named Christopher Paul Neal posted a picture of himself with a swirl effect on his face in order to taunt police. However, Interpol was able to unswirl the image, revealing his face, and arrested him. A Swedish brewery crafted the most expensive potato chip in the world, $56 for a set of 5 or $11.20 a piece. They're made from special potatoes which are hand harvested and come in 5 flavors: Matsutsuke mushrooms, truffle seaweed, crown dill, lick sand onions, and India Pale Ale. Researchers at the University of Bristol discovered that bees leave a scent on surfaces with their feet. The bees can detect the smell and distinguish if it is their own scent, a relative's, or a stranger's. There are 4 presidents that served their entire terms as president of the United States without a vice president: John Tyler, Millard Fillmore, Andrew Johnson, and Chester A. Arthur. Although uncommon, it's possible for tonsils and adenoids to grow back after surgery. It only takes leaving a small amount of tissue behind to cause them to grow back. In dentistry in the 1800s, teeth from dead soldiers were taken to make dentures for the rich whose teeth were rotten. The Sky Slide is a slide made of glass on the outside of the OUE Sky Space LA Observation Deck, LA's landmark skyscraper. The slide is almost 14 meters long, 305 meters above ground, and takes individuals from the 70th to the 69th floor. The slow loris has glands on its inner elbow that secrete a poisonous toxin. They can use it as both a weapon and a form of protection, and the toxin can be sucked into its mouth, which gives it a poisonous bite. The 18th president of the United States, Ulysses S. Grant's given name was actually Hiram Ulysses Grant. His middle initial S meant nothing and was the result of an error from Ohio Congressman Thomas Hammer, who accidentally wrote his name as Ulysses S. Grant when he was nominated to attend West Point. Alligators mainly live in freshwater habitats, while crocodiles prefer to live in salt or brackish water. Researchers in Japan have been able to use a tiny drone to pollinate a real flower. They did it by attaching horsehair bristles from a paintbrush to the bottom of the drone to mimic the fuzzy torso of a bee. They then covered the hairs with a sticky gel, which captures the pollen when it touches the flower, kind of like a semi-permanent glue. Wasabi is one of the hardest plants to grow in the world because it cannot be cultivated well in other than cold, pure running water. It also takes over a year for it to mature, and if there is too much humidity or the wrong nutrient composition, the entire crop will be completely wiped out. According to a study done by scientists at the University of Wyoming in Laramie in 2014, bumblebees can fly higher than Mount Everest. The researchers placed the bees in a plexiglass flight chamber and used a hand pump to pull all the air out of the chamber to create the reduced air pressures that the bees would face at high altitudes. The plexiglass broke before the bumblebees stopped flying. The Azure Window, the iconic rock formation tourist attraction in Malta, collapsed into the sea in March of 2017 after being there for thousands of years. When margarine, which is naturally white, was first introduced, 32 states had imposed color constraints on it. Vermont, New Hampshire, and South Dakota all passed laws demanding that margarine be dyed pink. Then there were other states that proposed it be colored red, brown, or black. This is because butter makers didn't want it to be yellow because they didn't want it to be the same color as butter. As of January 2017, 100% of electric trains in the Netherlands are powered by wind energy. According to the US Fish and Wildlife Service, the African giant pouched rat is being tested to see whether it can help detect illegal shipments of hardwood timber, part of a multi-billion-dollar black market industry, as well as pangolins, the world's most poached mammal. They use rats because they have a really strong sense of smell and have been able to detect buried landmines. There's a molecule in Szechuan peppers that makes your cell's touch receptors feel like they're being rapidly vibrated and give you that numb, tingly feeling. There is actually a vegetarian spider. The Bagheera kaplingi are found in southeastern Mexico and northwestern Costa Rica. Occasionally, a hen will lay an egg inside of an egg. This phenomenon occurs when a hen is in the process of forming an egg in her oviduct, and a second oocyte is released by the ovary before the first egg has completely traveled through the oviduct and been laid. On Valentine's Day at the Bronx Zoo, you can, for a $10 donation, name a cockroach after your sweetie. The money goes to the Wildlife Conservation Society. How romantic! This is the Licky Brush. It's for those people who have always wanted to lick their cat. Crab claws have very strong muscles. They can produce a pinch force of up to 27 kilograms. Fleas hitch rides on earwigs to suck bat blood. In 2006, a team of entomologists trekked into the heart of Deer Cave in Malaysia's Gunung Melu National Park and found earwigs covered in fleas. They discovered that the fleas use earwigs as a shuttle to get to the cave ceiling where they can feed on the blood of hairless naked bulldog bats. Dalhousie in New Brunswick, Canada is giving away plots of land to businesses and entrepreneurs. The value of the land varies from $20,000 to $50,000. When elk are in a mating mood, they make a bugling, screaming sound that sounds just like the ring wraiths from The Lord of the Rings. The medals from the Rio 2016 Paralympics feature a tiny device which makes a noise when the medal is shaken, allowing visually impaired athletes to know if they won gold, silver, or bronze. Dolphins shed their entire outer layer of their skin every 2 hours. The Amazon basin is home to over 2,500 species of fish, more species than are recorded for the entire Atlantic Ocean. Wearing a green hat in China is considered a faux pas. It makes a statement that your partner is unfaithful to you. Male llamas and alpacas can suffer from something called berserk male syndrome. Owners suddenly find their animals wildly charging at them from behind or rearing up at them screaming, spitting, and biting. It's caused by overhandling by humans, and the alpaca or llamas begin to look at their human as a rival. The flesh-colored crayon's name was changed voluntarily by Crayola to Peach in 1962, partially as a result of the US Civil Rights Movement. In 2001, Microsoft changed the advertising slogan for the Windows XP operating system from "Prepare to Fly" to "Yes You Can," all because of the September 11th attacks on the United States. A Yale University study once found that the aroma of Crayola crayons is one of the most recognizable scents to adults. It ranked 18th, just ahead of coffee and peanut butter. According to a 2016 report from the US News and World Report, only 18% of US drivers know how to operate a stick shift, and only about 5% of vehicles sold in the United States today come with a stick shift. According to a study led by Dr. Amneet Sandhu at the University of Colorado in Denver in 2014, switching over to daylight savings time and losing 1 hour of sleep raised the risk of having a heart attack the following Monday by 25%. That being compared to other Mondays during the year. According to Andreas Keller at Rockefeller University, the average person can tell the difference between 1.7 trillion different smells with combinations of 30 ingredients. The medieval town of Nordlingen in Bavaria, Germany is situated entirely inside a meteorite crater that's 25 kilometers across. That crater formed 14.5 million years ago. According to a study done by UBC researchers between October 2013 and February 2014, people who are narcissistic, psychopathic, or have Machiavellian tendencies are less convincing online than they are in person. That's because once the non-verbal cues are removed, it's much easier to spot someone with these characteristics. Some frogs throw up their entire stomachs when they've eaten something extremely nasty, such as a poisonous insect. You ever seen Pan's Labyrinth? You know what I'm talking about. The entire stomach is thrown up inside out where the offensive insect falls out, but if it doesn't fall out completely, the frog will actually reach up with its forearms and stroke the inverted lining of its stomach, cleaning it off manually. Unlike other fruit that generally grows on trees, pineapples grow on shrubs, and each pineapple plant only grows one pineapple. In Buddhist and Muslim countries, it's seen as an insult to point the sole of your feet or shoes at somebody. There's a dog cloning service called Sohm Biotech Research Foundation located in South Korea that will actually clone your beloved pooch for around $100,000. Ancient Egyptians rimmed their eyes with coal, a mixture of lead, copper, burned almonds, and soot in order to ward off evil spirits. In Italy, Disney actually changed the name of the movie Moana to Oceana because Moana Pazzi is the name of a famous Italian porn star there. She passed away in 1994, but her name is still oddly a household name. Can't be associated with porn, oh boy! Before Americans landed on the moon for the first time, the majority of Americans did not support the idea of a moon landing and thought the government was spending way too much money on space. Artist Bin Don, who lives in Southern California, creates art by taking photographs of people from the Vietnam War and through the use of sunlight and glass, prints them onto leaves and then casts them in resin. According to the Max Planck Institute for Ornithology in Germany, the frigate bird sleeps while it's flying. It sleeps for about 12 seconds at a time and usually with only half its brain. Over a 24-hour period, they sleep only about 40 minutes. Man, that sounds like a tough life. In March of 2017, a team of Egyptian and German archaeologists found an almost 8-meter tall statue of King Psamatech I, who ruled Egypt from 664 to 610 BC. It was originally believed to be a depiction of Pharaoh Ramses II and is over 3,000 years old. Scientists have developed a reusable sponge called the oleo sponge, which can absorb oil from the surface of water but also below the surface, which will improve our ability to clean up large oil spills because not all of the oil sits on the surface. According to a study published in the Journal Archives of Disease in Childhood by researchers from St. George's University in London, Children who spend more than 3 hours in front of a screen or using computers are at a greater risk of developing type 2 diabetes. These children scored higher on various measures of body fat and had higher insulin levels. Theodore Roosevelt won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1906 for his role in mediating the Treaty of Portsmouth, which ended the Russo-Japanese War. He was the first American to get the award, and he used the prize money to fund a trust to promote industrial peace. In March of 2017, geologists Jonathan O'Neill and Richard Carlson uncovered ancient minerals that are remnants of the Earth's original crust, which first formed more than 4.2 billion years ago. That discovery was made in northern Quebec, Canada. Hey Richard, I've been digging. I think I found something here, eh? According to a study done by Enigma in February of 2017, key brain regions are smaller in people with ADHD. These include the parts responsible for emotions, goal-directed action, learning, and responding to stimuli, rewards, and motivation, as well as memory. Cardiff, Wales couple Martin Shervington and Eliza Evans got married in virtual reality in May of 2017. The wedding took place at a virtual nightclub called The Spire. They invited 150 of their friends and family to attend, many of whom wouldn't have been able to make it to a real-life wedding in Cardiff. They tied the knot on a virtual reality social network called AltSpace VR. Dr. Hadi Shafi, assistant professor of medicine at Brigham and Women's Hospital and Harvard Medical School, is working on making a new device that measures sperm concentration using your phone's camera. Oh, I see all kinds of issues with this. According to a study by Scott Bobeck, a vertebrate ecologist at Dickinson College in Pennsylvania, boa constrictors don't suffocate their prey, they actually cut off their blood supply. When it tightens its body around its prey, it puts pressure on the victim's circulatory system, and their arterial pressures drop, venous pressures go up, and their blood vessels close. On March 24th, 2001, in a spring training game between the Arizona Diamondbacks and San Francisco Giants, pitcher Randy Johnson hit a pigeon while pitching, with the bird exploding in midair. Oxygen masks in airplanes aren't actually connected to an oxygen tank. Instead, they use a chemical reaction to generate it on the spot. On March 23, 1962, Jacqueline Kennedy was given a horse named Sardar by Muhammad Ayub Khan, the president of Pakistan. Japan actually has Braille on their beer cans that says alcohol and sometimes even the manufacturer's name. Richard Nixon has been featured on the cover of Time magazine more than any other individual, having appeared 55 times. Pope Benedict XIV is a licensed pilot who can legally fly small engine planes or helicopters. President Theodore Roosevelt, the 32nd president of the United States, has a tattoo image of his family crest tattooed on his chest. Bon Iver from Bruceville, Indiana, built 2 roller coasters in his backyard. He calls them the Blue Flash, and he built them for his grandchildren with no prior experience from scrap metal that he collected and then welded together. Oh, that's nice. Hey kids, if you're watching, don't ride Grandpa's death machine. There's a temple called Wat Sampran in Thailand that has a giant dragon wrapped around the outside of the building that's approximately 17 stories high. On the grounds, there's also various animal sculptures such as an elephant, rabbit, dolphins, and another large building in the shape of a tortoise. In Murphy, North Carolina, there's a place called Fields of the Wood Bible Park that has a mountain called the Ten Commandments Mountain. The Ten Commandments are literally etched into the side of its grassy slope. Nelson Mandela was an amateur boxer. He trained at the Donaldson Orlando Community Center gym in Johannesburg. He enjoyed the science of boxing more than the violence of it. In Bolivian cities, there's a program called the Mama Zebra Program, where a team of young people dress in zebra costumes and dance in the streets to make drivers and pedestrians aware of traffic rules. The zebra was picked because of the pattern of the zebra crossing. In 2006, the annual Discover Santa convention was held in Branson, Missouri. There were workshops, vendor fairs, events, and networking. Over 300 Santas showed up. It was the first true modern-day Santa convention. On the 94th floor of the John Hancock Center in Chicago, there is a steel and glass structure called Tilt that allows people to hover 305 meters over the city. It has 3 overhead hydraulic actuators that rotates the enclosed moving platform and tilts you out 30 degrees over the edge of the building. The makers of sriracha hot sauce, Huifeng Foods, chose a green cap for their bottle of sriracha to represent a fresh chili stem. Bless those people, they make delicious hot sauce. During World War II, Britain's special operations executives equipped secret agents with itching powder that was placed into condoms destined for use by German servicemen stationed in Norway. I know it's war, but that's just cruel. Koreans donated billions of euros worth of gold jewelry to help pay down the nation's International Monetary Fund debt in the wake of the 1997 Asian financial crisis. It actually enabled them to pay off the debt ahead of schedule. The government asked the citizens to donate their gold jewelry, and millions of people did so by donating heirlooms, wedding rings, trophies, and small gold figurines. 227 tons of gold was collected within months. The world's narrowest street is in the city of Reutlingen in Germany. City Street number 77 ranges from just 31 centimeters at its narrowest to 50 centimeters at its widest. It was built in 1727. In 1874, earmuffs were invented by a 15-year-old boy named Chester Greenwood from Maine. He shaped 2 pieces of wire into circles and then connected them with a wire headband. His grandmother then sewed velvet and beaver fur to the circles to keep out the wind. He was 18 when he got the patent in 1877, and by 1883, his factory was producing 30,000 earmuffs a year. By the time of his death in 1937, he was producing over 400,000. There's a Pac-Man-inspired entertainment center in Illinois called Level 257. It's an over 3,900 square meter playground with bowling, arcade games, and food. The kill screen on Pac-Man is level 256, so level 257 symbolizes the next level of play. There's even a store that sells Pac-Man memorabilia, hundreds of which are only available there. The Maya and other ancient peoples of southern North America went to dentists to beautify their teeth with notches, grooves, and semi-precious stones like jade. The Holiday Inn Resort in Panama City Beach, Florida has a special daily wake-up call for spring breakers, blasting Circle of Life, Elton John's hit song from the Lion King musical. They blasted at their balconies, a tradition which began in 2012. American aviator Charles Augustus Lindbergh, who made the first solo non-stop flight across the Atlantic in 1927, was a polygamist with 3 other families and wives in Germany and Switzerland. Jeez, dude got busy. Of the 24 men who traveled to the moon on Apollo 8 and Apollo 10 through 17 missions, 20 were Boy Scouts. That includes 11 of the 12 moonwalkers and all 3 members of the Apollo 13 crew. Thomas Edison proposed to his second wife, Mina Miller Edison, by using Morse code. Oh, that's romantic. In Mount Rushmore's original design, the 4 presidents were actually meant to be carvings from the waist up, but insufficient funding brought the carver to stop after the faces were completed. Between 2002 and 2010, almost 18,000 men made trips to ERs for zipper mishaps. That's nearly 1/5 of all penis injuries during this time. Researchers at the Worcester Polytechnic Institute are developing a method to use the vascular network in spinach leaves to deliver blood, oxygen, and nutrients to grow human tissue. They hope that in the future they will be able to use this to filter blood better to damaged tissue in the human heart. Theodore Roosevelt was an avid reader. Now that's not that amazing, but what is that he was known to read on average a book a day while he was president. He usually read several books at a time, rotating between them depending on his mood. In 1965, artist Salvador Dali drew a picture of Jesus on the cross and donated it to Rikers Island in New York. It hung in the dining hall for 16 years when the prison administration began to fear that the prisoners might damage the painting, and it was moved to a plexiglass case in the lobby of the prison. It turns out it wasn't the prisoners they needed to worry about, because in 2003 it was stolen by 4 prison officials, including a deputy.
On January 9th, 1493, famous Italian explorer Christopher Columbus was sailing near the Dominican Republic when he spotted what he claimed were 3 mermaids in the water.
He described these mythical creatures as being not half as beautiful as they are painted.
The creatures turned out to actually be manatees.
I find manatees rather attractive.
According to a study at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, Meditating for about half an hour for 8 weeks significantly reduces the feeling of loneliness in adults and makes them feel a lot happier.
Oh. No, you can't see a single one of them. They're between 2,000 and 4,000 taste buds on your tongue that contain sensory cells that renew themselves every 7 days. Excuse me for a second.
Before he was the amazing Academy Award-winning actor he's famous for being today, the legendary Christopher Walken, well, he worked as a circus owner's apprentice. During shows, he acted as the lion tamer, performing alongside a lioness named Sheba. Sorry, my Christopher Walken, it's awful.
On July 5th, 1996, Dolly, the first mammal to be successfully cloned from an adult somatic cell through nuclear transfer, entered the world at the Roslin Institute in Midlothian, Scotland. She was a domestic female sheep and named after the country music icon Dolly Parton. And so was Dolly Parton clone, the clone that I made. Ain't that right, Dolly Parton clone?
I don't have any time for this, cause I've been working from 9 to 5. What a way to make a living.
The original name of the video game character Mario from the Super Mario Bros. Franchise was Mr. Video. He was actually later renamed as Mario after the landlord of Nintendo's first warehouse, Mario Segale. Mario Segale, meanwhile, earned himself the nickname of Mr. Video. They did themselves an old swapsies. And that's not a theory, that is a fact.
By late 2014, the music video for Psy's Gangnam Style accumulated so many views, it actually broke YouTube's counter. It became the first video to surpass 2,147,483,647 views, and that forced YouTube to upgrade from a 32-bit integer system to a 64-bit one.
Research has shown that 40% of all twins have invented their own language, and they can even understand each other when using it. Yeah. It's called an autonomous language. It develops and forms due to both siblings learning to speak at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
What's going on, people? It's your main man Dame Drops, and I'm bringing you an extra crispy fun fact, baby. Now, you're probably thinking, Dame, how do a popsicle come to be? Well, back in 1905 in San Francisco, we have an 11-year-old by the name of Frank Epperson. One given evening, Frank forgot his cup of powdered soda, water, and a steering stick inside the cup. He left it out there overnight, only to find a tasty frozen treat in the morning.
To help them capture the realism of flying creatures or soaring through the clouds, the animators behind How to Train Your Dragon had to attend flight school.
Released in 2013, Eminem's Rap God holds the Guinness World Record for the most words in a single song. During its 6-minute and 4-second runtime, the rapper spits out 1,560 words. That's an average of 4.3 words per second. Boom bang.
What up, y'all? It's your boy Mims, aka Mr. This Is Why I'm Hot. And I'm not sure if you know this fact, but This Is Why I'm Hot contains samples from Mobb Deep's Shook One Part 2, Kanye West's Jesus Walks, Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg's Nothing But a G Thing, and E40's Tell Me When to Go. And that's a fun fact for you guys. Your boy Mims. Mims!
The Guinness World Record for the most consecutive personal video blogs posted on YouTube is over 3,057 and counting on September 14th, 2017. It was achieved by the CTFXC. Believe it or not, it's actually me. It's officially amazing, see?
Canola is a word that's short for Canadian oil and was created by the Canadian oil industry in 1978. Canola oil was originally called rapeseed oil, but due to the negative connotations that it received, the organization decided to rename it.
Clouds are literally floating around in the sky, right? They look nice and light and fluffy, but in fact, the water in a medium-sized cumulus cloud weighs around 500,000 kilograms. We're talking 500 SUVs, 4 blue whales floating around in the sky. Blue whales, that's a bonus fact for you. Very heavy.
Despite selling over 1.6 billion singles in the United States, 600 million albums worldwide, and winning 8 Grammy Awards, not one member of the Beatles could read or write sheet music. Now that's a sweet fact.
The genre of music known as hip-hop is so named after Keith Wiggins, an MC in the group Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Keith used to scat and chant hip-hop at his friend while pretending to march, mocking his friend's choice to enlist in the military. The group then became known as hip-hoppers.
Despite having the nickname Deadly Nightshade, due to being quite lethal, even in small quantities, belladonna plants were used as ingredients in drops to make women's eyes larger in ancient Rome. Today, the dangerous plant is still used by doctors to dilate patients' eyes.
There's a term that's been coined for when a pet dog's paws smell oddly of corn chips. That term is Frito-feet, and it's caused by bacteria the canine picked up, giving off a yeasty odor. Okay, back in the garbage you go.
While trying to create crystalline structures like those in Earth's lower mantle, German scientist Dan Frost discovered how to form diamonds out of substances high in carbon. He has literally made a diamond out of peanut butter.
What is up, everybody? The award-winning Canadian singer-songwriter Shawn Mendes got his start performing covers of famous songs on the social media platform Vine in 2013. Today, according to Time magazine, he's considered one of the 100 most influential people in the world. Love you, Shawn.
Every individual cable holding India's massive Bandar Worli ceiling, an 8-lane traffic bridge, can support over 900 tons of weight. And if put together, it could wrap around the whole circumference of the Earth.
Karate belts or obi rank from white to black. Oh, they're both black. They're both mine. And each rank is darker than the previous one. And that's because in the 1940s, it was way cheaper to simply just dye the belt than to go out and buy a new one. And you couldn't dye it lighter, so they got darker.
The very first Apple computer logo was unveiled in 1976, and it was designed by Ronald Wayne, who is considered by many people to be the third co-founder of the company. The logo features Sir Isaac Newton sitting under a tree just as an apple is about to hit him in the head.
A scientific study conducted in 2008 revealed that owning a cat or a kitten can actually reduce a human being's risk of a heart attack or stroke by over 33%.
Many tech companies choose the country of New Zealand as their test market for many new products. The Kiwi Nation has a diverse group of people, most of whom speak English, and should the technology be a failure, the islands are isolated enough so it won't have as much of a negative impact on the brand.
Despite being called a number sign, a pound symbol, or most recently the hashtag symbol, was originally called an octothorpe. The name was given by technicians in a lab that created Bell telephones in the 1960s.
The original concept for Woody in Disney's Toy Story wasn't going to have him be a cowboy at all. In fact, they were going to have him be a ventriloquist dummy who was really cruel to the other toys, going as far as purposely pushing Buzz Lightyear out of a window. The studio realized, for some reason, people don't want to watch a movie about a character so cruel, and they changed him to a cowboy. Thankfully, because ventriloquist dummies make me want to die.
In an effort to persuade Robin Williams to agree to voice the role of the genie in Disney's Aladdin, the filmmakers actually produced animated clips of the character saying lines from the comedian's stand-up performances. Obviously, it worked.
Though it's considered a mythical creature, the unicorn is the official national animal of Scotland. It was used in an early version of William I's Scottish coat of arms and has since then evolved into the respected symbol the country sees it as today.
The ninth brightest star visible in Earth's sky is Betelgeuse, a red supergiant in the constellation Orion that's nearing the end of its life. But it's so far away that it could have already gone supernova hundreds of years ago, and we wouldn't know it yet. And just to add a little bit of context to this fact, Betelgeuse is very large. It's 860 million miles across, or 1.4 billion kilometers. That's 2,000 times the diameter of our own sun. And the reason that it might have gone supernova and we just don't know it is that it takes 1 year for light to travel 1 light year. And since Betelgeuse is around 642 light years away, it would take 642 years for that light to reach us. So when you look at the night sky, what you are seeing, no matter how far away that celestial body is an object that is in the past, not in the present.
The reason the letter X is used in airport codes such as LAX in Los Angeles and PHX in Phoenix is because when 3-letter identifiers became standard over the previously used 2-letter system, the airport simply added it so they didn't need to change much.
Did you know that cashews come from a fruit? You did? I told you that? Well, another fact would be, though they are both fictional places, Batman's Gotham City is geographically in the state of New Jersey, while Superman's home metropolis is in Delaware. But cashews really come from fruit. You can actually get a juice. They sell it in a can. In some place you can drink it. It's weird.
According to a study published in the Journal of Evolutionary Biology in 2016, when it comes to facial hair on men, more women prefer them to have 5 to 10 days of growth over being clean shaven.
When jump scares in horror movies startle us, our bodies react by going into fight or flight mode.
This is due to connections our brains make between the fake events on the screen and the real events we've actually experienced or even just been told about.
Yeah, as I say. Oh my goodness, facts.
Did you know taking a warm bath before bed is scientifically proven to help you sleep better? Melatonin, the hormone that induces sleep, is released when our bodies cool before rest. So heating yourself up before bed will speed up the cooling process and you'll feel tired quicker. That's why I take baths all the time.
Did you know that in the 1990s, the king of pop himself, Michael Jackson, wanted to play Spider-Man so badly that he discussed purchasing Marvel Comics with Stan Lee, although no deal obviously was made. Although that would have been interesting to see Michael Jackson as Spider-Man. That would have made Infinity War a whole lot different. Mr. Stark, Shamona, I don't feel so good.
It is a myth that blind people see nothing at all. In fact, studies actually show that only about 10 to 15% of blind people see nothing at all. The rest, like myself, have a bit of remaining vision.
Although they started off selling hot dogs from a cart in the 1930s, today, fast food giant McDonald's sells 75 hamburgers every second of every day. You know how much bread all those hamburgers require? An abundance.
Wow, crazy fact. Crazy fact. You know there's only 2 countries on earth that have a flag that don't share colors with the one belonging to the United States?
Mauritania and Jamaica? All others have red, white, or blue, or all 3 of them.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
New York got 7.
On June 17th, 2007, an art collective known for pulling off elaborate pranks hacked into a Czech TV weather report and replaced the image with a live nuclear blast complete with mushroom cloud, giving the illusion that there was an actual nuclear bomb going off right there at that moment live.
As an inventor, Thomas Edison made 1,000 unsuccessful attempts at creating the light bulb. When a reporter asked him, how does it feel to fail 1,000 times? Edison replied, the light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps.
Studies have actually proven that opposites actually do attract.
A couple can have too much in common, and if that's true, they are more likely not to last long together.
Having different opinions while still respecting your partners is healthier in a relationship than always agreeing on everything.
Facts.
Facts.
Yeah.
About 80% of Americans have siblings. Younger siblings tend to be more extroverted than older siblings. And siblings tend to resemble each other in looks and intelligence, but are quite different in personality.
The first version of the insanely popular video game Minecraft was created in just 6 days by creator Marcus Notch Persson. He initially called it Cave Game, and to date, it's sold over 144 million copies.
Did you know that the largest guitar in the world is over 13 meters long? It's 4.9 meters wide and weighs nearly 1,023 kilograms. The strings in it are super thick, but because it's so long, the same pitch is maintained as if it were a regular sized guitar. The reason you sometimes feel chills while listening to music is because your brain is releasing dopamine, a chemical that motivates you and makes you feel good, while you anticipate the peak moment in that song.
The first housewarming parties were literally held to warm houses. All of the guests would bring over pieces of wood and they would light fires in every fireplace in the new home. It was believed that empty houses would attract spirits and ghosts. So when people would move in, they would warm the house to send the spirits away.
Will Smith was offered the lead role in the movie The Matrix to play the character Neo, but he turned it down to do Wild Wild West.
You ever pass by a nice little fuzzy squirrel? Thought he was a cute little thing? You'd just go up and pet him if you had the chance, wouldn't you? Well, this might make you feel a little differently about those fuzzy little freaks, because squirrels have been known, when in need of food, to eat mice, snakes, and even birds. Kind of ruins your perception of those cute, cuddly little acorn-eating little friends of the forest, doesn't it? I'd still pet one. Pretty good too. I'm a good one, good petter.
When the sewers of Paris get clogged, officials sometimes clean them with giant iron and wood rolling balls, which is the same method they used over a century ago. There's an Easter tradition in Czechoslovakia where women get whipped and have cold water thrown on them. Legend says that it will bring health and beauty to those women in the coming year. People who are always giving their opinions on topics that are beyond their area of expertise are called ultra-crepidarians. The University of Victoria's Law Library has a black lab named Echo that can be checked out from the library for 30 minutes as a stress reliever for students. It's the only law library in Canada that provides this service. Shaquille O'Neal and Bob Lanier are tied for having the biggest feet in the NBA. They both have size 22 feet, with Shaq being a height of 2.16 meters and Lanier being 2.08. In 1938 and throughout the Second World War, St. Ermines Hotel was the home base for secret British spies and the wartime intelligence community. The British Secret Intelligence Service, Section D, took up the entire top floors of the hotel and had explosives stashed there, while many other guests staying at the hotel had no idea. Researchers at the University of Wisconsin-Madison have developed a new technique to replace the bulk of toxic and non-biodegradable materials in smartphone microchips with a transparent, flexible material made from wood pulp. There's an electric catfish that exists that generates an electric shock up to 400 volts. It's produced by specialized gland cells on the side of their skin. The catfish is in complete control of these shocks, which they can use to their advantage. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization estimates that around 795 million people in the world, or 1 in 9, were suffering from chronic undernourishment between 2014 and 2016. And almost all of those people live in developing countries. Forest bathing, which is basically just being in the presence of trees, is a Japanese practice that is proven to lower heart rate and blood pressure. It also reduces stress hormone production, boosts the immune system, and overall feelings of well-being. See that? Just go hug a tree, you'll feel better. Red eye from flash photography is caused by the light of the flash happening too fast for the pupil to close. The light passes into the eye through the pupil, reflects off the fundus at the back of the eyeball, and appears red because of blood in the eye. According to a DNA study by geneticists at Germany's University of Tübingen in 2010, King Tut was a frail pharaoh with malaria and a bone disease. These health issues could be due to the new discovery that he was the product of incest. In 2002, Elmo appeared in front of the Education Appropriations Subcommittee to encourage more spending on music research and musical instruments for school programs. He also attended an education event at the White House. In 2007, NASA bought a $19 million toilet from the Russian aerospace company SP Korolev Rocket and Space Public Corporation. The reason that it's so expensive is because the toilet recycles urine into drinking water. Well, at least you know where your tax dollars are going. The 24th floor of the Empire State Building used to be full of nap pods, which were cushy chairs that allowed people to take 20-minute naps. Each eye can only hold about 7 microliters of fluid, which is why tears run down your face when you cry. That's also why you get a runny nose when you cry, because the drainage ducts get flooded. Somnophobia is the fear of sleeping or falling asleep. It's closely related to the fear of the unknown because people suffering with this disorder are often afraid of what might happen when they fall asleep. Spiders crawling in my mouth. That's my nightmare. The captain on Cap'n Crunch cereal is not actually a captain, he's a commander. He only has 3 stripes on his sleeve, which makes him a commander. Captains have 4. Yeah, tell your friends about that one, ruin their childhoods. Scientists have found that listening to music releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter in the brain that's associated with pleasure. This explains why music is so significant for humans even though it has no clear survival value. Moving a snail at least 19.8 meters away will make it less likely to return because it will lose its bearings. Snails' homing instincts only cover short distances. Millennials have a low average net worth of only about $17,612 on average. And this is almost entirely because of student loans. There's a frog called the southern gastric brooding frog that uses its stomach as a womb. The mother swallows her own eggs and stops producing hydrochloric acid in her stomach to make sure that she doesn't digest her own young. But the best part is that she eventually gives birth through propulsive vomiting. The world record for the fastest time to pierce 4 coconuts with just a finger is 12.15 seconds and was accomplished by Ho Ang Hui, aka Master Ho from Malaysia in Milan, Italy on April 21st, 2011. How does that work? It's very confusing but amazing. During the Second World War, when meeting with his war cabinet, Winston Churchill always insisted that they use noiseless typewriters as he just disliked the noise. In 2016, the Cheetos company started selling Cheetos-scented perfume called Cheeto for $18.99. They've also released a Cheetos bronzer to get what they call the Cheetos Kissed Glow. Wait, why wouldn't I just open a bag of Cheetos and just rub it on my face like a Oompa Loompa? Before refrigerators, people in Russia and Finland used to put live Russian brown frogs in milk to keep it fresh. The amphibian skin has peptides and antimicrobial compounds that kept it fresh. Frog milk. There's a bridge in Dumbarton, Scotland called the Overton where local dogs keep mysteriously committing suicide. Some accounts say as many as 600 dogs have died there. In North Korea, nearly 100% of eligible voters vote even though there's only one option on the ballot. Yeah, sounds legit. During the Second World War, it's estimated that only 14% to 19% of kamikaze aircraft successfully hit their target. Many were shot down before they even got close to the ships that they were trying to damage. In November of 2016 in South Korea, more than 600,000 students wrote the annual college entrance exam, which is extremely important for their futures in their competitive country. But to make sure the roads were clear for the students to arrive on time, trucks were banned, construction sites were paused, and businesses were opened late. Transport authorities even stopped all airport landings and takeoffs for 30 minutes in the afternoon so as to not disturb the main language listening test. If you can't tell, they take those exams seriously. All cats, including tigers, have a specific scent because they have individualized scent glands. The individual scent helps cubs find their mothers and allows them to identify certain individuals. There's an orchestra based in Vienna that performs on instruments that are made entirely out of vegetables. They call themselves the Vegetable Orchestra, clever name, and they use a variety of vegetable instruments to create a very unique sound. What sound does an eggplant make? In Helsingborg, Sweden, there's a new museum called the Museum of Failure, which opened on June 7th, 2017. Samuel West, the creator of the museum, says the purpose of it is to think differently about failure and to realize that you can't have success without it. There's a bird called the secretary bird that kicks and stomps on their prey's head until it dies or is incapacitated, specifically with large lizards and venomous snakes. It can kick with 195 newtons, which is equivalent to about 5 times their own body weight. I'll mash you up good. The exclamation part only became a key on the keyboard in 1970. Before then, people would type a period and then use the backspace to go back and put an apostrophe above it. Most car airbags deploy at a speed of up to 322 kilometers an hour. An airbag can actually cause serious damage to a person at that speed and easily break your nose. Actor James Franco has been teaching film classes at UCLA School of Theater, Film, and Television since 2012. He's also working to get his PhD at Yale University. Between 753 and 476 AD, the Romans used to think that unibrows were beautiful and desirable features on a woman. Many women would even create one by painting in between their eyebrows if they couldn't naturally grow one. Really? Caterpillar? Between the face? Okay, whatever. Black was the only color that the Ford Model T came in between 1914 and 1925 because it was the only color paint that could be dried quickly, and speed was super important for the Ford plant because of its enormous volume. There is a 24-hour-a-day live-streamed show called Keeping Up with the Kardashians, where GoPro cameras film 4 kittens available for adoption living in an oversized dollhouse. Oh, that's so cute. Paracheer is a new type of cheerleading that's currently in development. It will involve mixed teams of disabled and non-disabled athletes, and they will create routines incorporating jumps, dance, and stunts. There's a cafe in Tokyo called Butler Cafe where all the waiters are butlers. You can even get butlers to call you prince or princess. Naked mole rats can survive for up to 18 minutes in an environment without oxygen. They do this by using a metabolic process usually associated with plants where they switch to a system run by fructose, which doesn't require oxygen. Mother Nature's a mad scientist. NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson has had more spacewalking time than any other female astronaut, and she's the first woman to command the International Space Station twice, and if that wasn't enough, she's the oldest woman to ever go into space at the age of 56. Superfetation is the term used to describe getting pregnant again while already pregnant. This happens when another fetus is conceived days or even weeks after its sibling. Underneath a golf driving range at Van Cortlandt Park in the Bronx, there's a massive $3.2 billion water filtration plant taking up enough space to hold Yankee Stadium. This plant can fill over 1 billion liters of water every day. James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader, developed a stutter as a child that became so severe that sometimes he could only talk to himself or his immediate family. This continued into high school, where his English teacher suggested that he memorize speeches and enter oratorical contests to get rid of his stutter, which ended up being an extremely successful cure. Astronaut Buzz Aldrin recorded a song called Rocket Experience to commemorate the 40th anniversary of his walk on the moon and to help benefit organizations dedicated to space exploration. Andy Garcia was born with an undeveloped conjoined twin the size of a tennis ball on his shoulder, which he eventually had surgically removed. Charles Dickens used to have a compass with him to make sure that he always slept and wrote facing north. He believed that doing this improved his creativity.